And now introducing the coolest group of dudes and girls that do real estate investing on this side of the Mississippi River. This is Hopportunity Investors.
Hey.
Okay. What's up, everybody? How we doing tonight? This is our August session of Hopportunity Investors. I cannot believe we are at the end of the summer. This is insane.
Craziness.
I think everybody on this page here would say that real estate has been pretty insane for the last couple months, but I guess the whole world's kind of insane right now. But yeah, guys, this is Hopportunity Investors. This is where real estate investing meets beer. If you've never been on here before, originally the idea was that we would meet and at a brewery talk shop about some real estate. It's about real estate investing, strategies, financing options, and the implementation of those here in Hampton Roads, sometimes beyond. And we like to bring in experts and local professionals to, talk on relevant subjects. And we like to do it over some cold, tasty, frothy, potentially craft beer. And networking is a huge part of this group. Right now, it's been a little bit difficult, but we're still networking in our own ways, in our own spheres. Guys, real estate investing is about those things: education, networking. So let's raise a glass to that and let's get this thing started. May your castle be secure and your cup overflowing.
Cheers.
So, guys, my name is Alex Winfield. I am a local real estate agent here in Hampton Roads, and I do sales, I do some investing, do some property management, and if you guys ever need anything, hit me up. But that's enough about me. We've got Mr. Sean and Mr. Cameron up there, and man, Sean Bowen and Cameron, they are some wholesalers in the area, incredible resources to this group and to guys like me in this arena out here. And we are working on this together to try to bring you guys some really good material to understand and to dive into the real estate game. So guys, thank you. We've been doing this for almost 2 years now. Did we hit the 2-year mark yet? We talked about this last month.
I think we're getting close to 3. I think we're getting close to 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be at 3 in October.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. No way.
Time
That's
flies
insane.
when you're having beer and talking real estate.
Dang, man. I've had like 2 kids since we started this thing. So yeah, guys, today we're bringing on Mr. Phil Capron. Actually, I should have looked up how to actually say his name, but we're going to call him Phil Capron. He's going to be coming on. We actually we're not going to be able to go live right away. He's going to come live on Q&A, hopefully, but he is unable to get with us right at 8:00 tonight. So we recorded some of this earlier. So hopefully you guys don't judge us on that and you give us some flexibility. Because what did you say, Cameron? You said it awesome.
We had
to pivot.
We had to pivot. He's traveling right now, so we had to pivot, record a little bit earlier, and make it work for everybody's schedule.
Pivoting in a virtual world.
Pivoting in a virtual world. That was he said it way more crucial sounding earlier. But,
Pivoting in a virtual world.
So yeah, he's gonna be on here. He's doing some amazing stuff, and I think it's great to have a guy like Phil on because he's a local dude. He kind of did a lot of the basic stuff before he was able to build his portfolio of multifamily, and now he's a great resource and just a great model of somebody going out there hustling and finding success. So Sean, you want to kind of lead in with who we are?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
and then also maybe hit on our market, and we'll kind of dive into that for real quick.
Definitely. So if we can, we'll have the ladies come on here for a second, because what I like to always do is everybody that comes in and joins us on these virtuals, you guys get to see us as a complete group, right? So on the screen, you'll see Vanessa and Ashley, and they are the ones that are pushing the buttons and making things happen in the background and making all of us look like we really know what we're doing. So thank you, ladies. Thank you, lady, for always helping us and making this thing happen. It's always awesome to work with you guys. So always appreciate the ladies being here and helping us and getting us through this. So guys, remember, as you're on this meeting with us or you're on this live, it'll be streaming in multiple spots. So you'll see it in the YouTube channel. You're probably seeing it in Facebook land and then different Facebook groups. Okay. So please join the StreamYard link, and that way you can click on it and we can see who's asking questions. And then we're going to go through and answer those as we go through this. But yeah, this thing is meant to be interactive, guys. Originally, as we were doing this before COVID, we get together, have beers, go to breweries, and have a good time, right? Talk real estate, have fun. The idea here is we're not talking down, we're not talking to, we're trying to interact with you guys. Okay, so we want this to be something that you can ask questions on and talk about, and not just sit around and watch, right? If that's what you want to do, that's cool. But we love to be interactive. Okay. So if you can click that link, let Facebook and StreamYard do their thing so we can see who you are and tell us where you're coming from. Where are you seeing this at? Is it on YouTube? Is it on Facebook? Hopportunity, Virginia Wholesale Real Estate, Alex's page, my page, whatever. So let us know where you're coming in from. Okay. So yeah, an update on the market here. Guys, if you're in Hampton Roads, this is a booming market. And I think pretty much across the board nationally, we're in a booming market. Okay. So we're having really, I would say, our best year. It's been really busy. Alex has been busy on the retail side of things. We've been busy on the wholesale / fix and flip, buy and hold, the whole gamut. And it's been a good year. So if you're sitting on the sidelines thinking about getting into real estate, don't wait. Get in, because it's good now, right? And then even better, as you see it at the top, and I got in back at the bottom back in 2010. So really, really good market. One thing I'll always say, though, is join groups like this. Get with local investors that are doing the business you want to do and shadow them, be with them, help them, like offer some kind of value in exchange so that you guys can work together and do deals. Real estate is about networking. That is truly what this business is about. You can know everything in the world and not know the right person, right, to get you in the right location and get you in the right deal. So that's what Alex brings to the table in his retail side of things and experience with the multifamilies, Airbnbs, property management. For us, we focus a lot on direct to sellers and dealing with a lot of off-market deals. So if you're interested there, check us out at vaoffmarketdeals.com. And you can sign up over there and we can show you what we have for you. Otherwise, yeah, that's it for kind of a catch up on us as a group. I want to thank everybody for being here, and please interact while we're here and doing this. We'll be here from about 8:30 to 9:30. Hopefully we can get Phil back on here and do some Q&As. If not, we're going to try to help answer some questions for you. But yeah, this will be a recording that we did earlier with Phil that we'll be able to go through and hopefully answer some questions as we get past it. That's it for me. Ashley, muted.
Guys, we got Mr. Phil Capron on. We're gonna go to our footage from earlier today, and he's gonna tell you about himself a little bit. So we'll just let him give his own intro at that point. Some good stuff. Stick around.
Yeah, and real fast before we start playing that, just ask questions and comment on the video as we go, because we're gonna keep track of those questions and pull them up again later when Phil is here for the Q&A. So yeah, that's about it. And you guys ready?
All right, let's do it.
this.
And was really happy to sell him a crappy house and then list it and sell the finished product to someone else, because that was 2 commissions and $1, and he was getting 40 on the HUD. I said, wait a second, I'm on the wrong side of this calculus. And I asked him to help me. And he said, no, you're my agent. That's it. Never ask again. I said, okay. So there's that. But I'm kind of stubborn, and went and figured it out on my own. And, definitely took my lumps in the beginning, but, pretty quickly figured the flipping process out, and most of them went pretty well. I had a couple that did not go well, due to, keep taking my eye off the ball, particularly with contractors. But, anyone that's flipped for any amount of time, I'm sure has some stories like that. And then in 2017, I took a buddy to a property, a 13-unit complex, and was hoping that he would buy it so I could make a nice commission. He declined, but after kind of a back and forth with the listing agent, he said that the seller would entertain a seller financing arrangement, and I asked if he would sell it to me. He said, "Yeah, bring $100,000 as a down payment, and he'll sell it to you." So I dove into that without probably the knowledge that would have been prudent to have before doing a project of that size. But as the rents continued to come in month after month after month, I said, "Hey, this is actually pretty cool." Flipping, it's constantly a battle to find the next flip. Wholesaling, same kind of idea. Brokerage, same kind of idea. But if you can put, an apartment building together, it operates more like a business. You do a lot of heavy lifting up front, a lot of due diligence, making sure you've got the right one. Once you get it, it's a lot of work to get it operating the way that you want it to do. And, at that point, it's not passive. Everyone likes to call it passive income, but, each one of my projects I work on a couple hours a week. Sometimes if something's burning down, it's going to be more, but, it's a big lever. There's a lot more people working on the success of the thing than just me. And that's what's so powerful and why I love multifamily. So these days, that's about all I do.
Nice, man. That's awesome. So you said you started in 2017 with that 13 unit?
Yep.
And where are you at now on the multifamily side? How many units did you say?
Sold a couple buildings this year. 309.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yep. So you saying you went from
another in October we're closing on a building that'll put me up over 400, so that'll make me feel better.
Nice. Yeah, you should feel really bad about being at 300.
I know. Well, I was selling these little buildings. So I was like, oh no, my unit count's going down. A lot of people are really obsessed about how many doors you own, but that actually doesn't even really matter. There's a lot of people on some pretty big platforms that are bragging, "Oh, I own 1,000 doors. I own 500 doors," when they're a 1% partner. So it's not it's not how many doors you're involved in; it's how many doors are actually yours. So
how many doors are making money?
Exactly. Yeah. How many doors are yours when everything's said and done? That's a way more important metric to me.
So you went from, in 3 years, you basically got all of those.
Went from 2 to 350, and then back to 309.
Damn, that's awesome, man. What kind of gave you the motivation to say, you know what, I'm going to do the multifamily thing as opposed to the flipping thing?
It wasn't motivation; it's that it works. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in 2008 or 10. And I thought, wow, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure that a lot of people that are on this have had a similar experience. You were exposed to something like that and you're like, yeah, owning real estate, that's great. Got it. So, down the line, when I have X, Y, or Z figured out, then I'm going to own some real estate. But, the couple single families that I kept, weren't super successful. Principal pay down happens. Obviously, we've been in a great market over the last decade. So if you bought anything in the last 10 years and didn't run it into the ground and, lose it to foreclosure or short sale, you're probably fine right now. So I don't think I did anything with either of those properties that I had. I sold one for a small profit in 2017 or 18. The other one's like my primary residence, so I retain that today. But the multifamily, like I said, once those rents started coming in, it was like, it reminds me of sitting with my grandparents when I'd go to visit them as a kid. They owned a laundromat, and we'd spend our evenings like rolling quarters. And as like a little kid, I'm like, look at all this money. And like, it wasn't that much money. It's quarters, but it seemed like a ton. I was like, how many arcade games could I buy with this? Like, I could play for days with all these quarters, and all the money orders and checks and, everything that would start to roll in from this one little building. I'm like, this is great. Like, my favorite day of the month was after I, picked everything up. I would, I'd go to the bank and I'd, flam all out on the counter and total everything up and be like, yes, like $10,000 is going into my bank. It was powerful, reinforcement. And I thought, if a 13 unit can do this, what can something bigger do? So it kind of perked up my spidey sense, and I started being aware of, hey, there's other people in the world that it's what they do. So how do I find those people? How do I hang out with those people? How do I, emulate those people and what they're doing? So, I don't know if that helps. That's, the truth of the matter of how the shift occurred.
Nice. That's pretty great, man. So you're pretty much primarily doing, because when I met you, you were actually a sales agent. I think we did a deal together.
Yeah, man. I still had a real estate license. I was still doing some flips. So, if something great came along for buy and hold, I'd look at it. But, again, because the buy and hold single families that I had, like, they weren't like lighting the world on fire. I mean, let's say that you've got a great one and it makes you, like $300 or $400 a month. Like, it's just not super exciting. And even though gross is different than net, just that act of taking like $10,000 and like putting in a bank, or 11,000 or whatever it ended up being, like that's what flipped the switch for me.
Okay, nice, man. So basically, you are doing this full time now, right? You're not really doing the sales side.
No. I dropped my license when I was doing a little bit more in the wholesaling and flipping side. I didn't like the illusion of a conflict of interest when I'd show up to a house and be like, hey, I'm a real estate agent. I'm not your real estate agent, blah, 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 blah. And I found that, the wholesaling and flipping was way more lucrative than the brokerage side. So I had to pick one, and I picked, principal over agency.
Okay.
There's some people that kill it.
That question comes up all the time. Should you get your license? Yeah. I'm kind of on your side, Phil, because I feel like you have a lot of obligations as a real estate agent. So if you're gonna be wholesaling it, to me, it's like I kind of don't want to be necessarily tied down to that. But a lot of people have different opinions on it.
It's risk mitigation. I mean, unless somebody takes you to the news, or if you're doing like an estate sale or something, oh, you took advantage of us. I don't know. I didn't ever want that to be an issue.
Do you guys have a license? Either of you? Yeah, I mean.
However, on the other side of that coin, I wouldn't be where I am today without a license, without having had a license for, 6-7 years. Just playing around in rain, looking at all the vacant REOs, the wholesaling, the flipping, all of that is so critical to teach me valuation. If you don't understand valuation, all you're going to do is take, a single family. If you mess up the valuation, you're going to lose tens of thousands of dollars. If you mess up the valuation on a multifamily, you could be on the hook for 6 or 7 figures if it goes goes wrong. So I attribute the single family stuff and the brokerage stuff to teaching me how to be a very shrewd valuator of property, and specifically in how to add value
Nice.
to property.
Very cool, man.
We didn't have any interest in. I had a guy took the test, was ready to go, get licensed, and then I found out like if you say certain things or do certain things, you can get fined. And I was like, well, I'll just stack that up on an hourly because I know that's going to happen. So I'm just not going to get this license.
Yeah, it's like a swear jar for Sean, but for like things you shouldn't say in real estate. It would get big quick. It'd be like one of those 5-gallon jugs.
Totally, all day.
Yeah.
So Phil, man, do you mind kind of sharing with us how you're putting these deals together? Because as you know, as we all know, the hardest part is funding. Well, I shouldn't say that's the hardest part. That's the part most people get stuck at. It's funding a deal, and especially as you get bigger and bigger, now you're talking bigger and bigger capital to do that, or more and more creative. And I know that you've done probably both. So if you can kind of share a little bit how you've kind of made some of these deals happen, we would really appreciate that.
Sure. So I'll start off with disagreeing on the premise that funding is the most difficult part. If you have a legitimate deal, money will find you. But you have to have a legitimate deal. So that's the first part of that equation. And the second part of that equation is you have to be able to prove, or at least give people a reason to believe that you have a likelihood of success. And that's what a lot of people are missing. If you simply bring a deal, but you've never done a deal, it's going to be really hard to get a bank on board to lend to you for a large chunk of money. And if you're bringing in any outside investors, and that's a whole nother can of worms that we can go into if you want. I think that's where you want to go. It can be a much longer discussion. So first, I'm talking about the senior debt, the bank stuff. Generally, as a rule of thumb, you need a net worth equivalent to whatever the loan amount you're seeking is. So if you're buying a property for $1.3 million and the loan is going to be about $1 million and you're bringing $300,000, you need to have a net worth greater than $1 million for a lot of banks to play. But the great thing about bigger deals in commercial is it doesn't necessarily have to be you that has that. It can be someone on your team. It's rare for people to be doing a whole lot of units, a whole lot of big projects on their own for that reason alone. I mean, even if you think about doctors, lawyers, professionals, not all of them have a net worth of $1 million, excluding their primary residence. So, it might take a couple people combining just to get the net worth piece done. And then, even the community banks, they're going to want to see some evidence that you're likely to succeed. So what is that? Again, if you've never run an apartment building or managed single family rentals or flipped houses or, anything in the real estate space, maybe you have to bring somebody in as more of the operational know-how side of your partnership. So that's the senior debt piece. And believe it or not, once you check these boxes, net worth, experience, and the cash to close, financing is not that difficult. The equity side is a little bit more of a conversation. So you asked how I did it. Very simply, the first deal I did, the 13-plex, the seller was taking care of the senior debt, so that's easy. No credit check, no net worth check, no appraisal, no environmental, nothing, right? It's just, oh, you want this? Cool, here's the term, sign this note, deed of trust, and away we go. And then the 100,000 we needed to close, I partnered up with one of my buddies from the military, and we brought the 100, and away we went. The second deal I did is what's called a joint venture. So a joint venture is an arrangement in which everybody who's a partner to the transaction is actively involved in the day-to-day management and decision-making of said project. So we all, brought, a good amount of money, and we bought a building that way. I love JVs, because you don't have to go through a lot of the rigmarole with the Securities and Exchange Commission for what's called a syndication. And a syndication is any time that you're taking money from investors who do not have an involvement in the project and expect a return as a result of your efforts. So, I am probably pretty close to spot on with that definition, but
sounds like
it's close if it's not verbatim, because it's a big deal. The Securities and Exchange Commission is out there making sure you don't Bernie Madoff people. So there's tons of people out there that are raising money the wrong way. They're just saying, hey, I've got a deal. I'll pay. I guarantee you a certain rate of return, blah, blah, blah. Give me your money. Sit over there. I'll send you a check. That's 100% wrong. In order to do something like that, you have to register with the SEC. The most common exemptions are the Regulation D, 506 rules. So it would be 506B is an exemption where you can raise money from friends, family, other people like that are not necessarily accredited investors with a net worth of $1 million or a household income of 200,000 as a single person, or 300,000 married. But the catch with that one is that you're not able to put out any advertisements, no Facebook Live saying, hey, look at my deal, no, commercials, no billboards, no nothing. It's people that you already have a substantive relationship with. So that's 506B. And then 506C, you can advertise to the world any means you see fit. But the catch on that one is you can only take accredited investors. So that's those millionaires and those high income people. So, like I said, there's a lot of people out there that are doing the wrong thing. So if you have a question, get on Google, search SEC attorney, and find somebody that deals with securities and get them to give you an opinion first before you go do something wrong. It's been a really long time since anyone's gotten really in trouble from the SEC in this space. It seems like, it's when someone does usually hear about it. And the reason why is because of the market. It's just been going up, 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 up. The only time when, it seems like people are turning people in and getting into the legal documents and what exactly happened is when things go the other direction.
When they start getting bored.
So, yeah. And like I said, SEC stuff, that's a whole presentation itself. So I can answer questions about it. I'm not an attorney or a CPA, but
I think that's a great idea, man. I think
okay, that's just the surface, because you can totally nerd out on that stuff. And A, I'm not qualified as a non-attorney, and B, it's freaking boring. So just call your attorney, call your accountant, make sure that you're doing stuff the right way at setup phase.
Okay, well, you kind of gave us three options here. You got, I think three, yeah.
JV, 506B, 506C.
So, which
seller
one
financing
have you kind of done the most with? What's kind of
JVs?
So you've been doing joint ventures.
Yeah, especially when you're getting started, you got a JV. Because if you haven't done an apartment before, you haven't done an apartment before. So that's one of the 3 elements of how to make a deal that you're missing. You need somebody, right? Just off the bat. You may or may not have the net worth to do a project of size. I'm guessing you don't, because most people don't. And then do you have all of the cash? You know, my example of $1.3 million purchase, do you have $300,000 to put down? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But you could find 2 buddies. Each one of you guys have 100,000. Each one of you are fairly well-to-do, net worth 300,000, 400,000, 500,000. So check. And then your one guy, Alex, is a real estate agent. Awesome. That's some experience in the space. That's going to look kindly on that. Away you go. You're doing a deal. You know, you're making decisions together. You're guiding the project. You're sharing the profits. You're sharing the pain. Some good times, some bad, but you'll learn a ton with your JV.
Nice. So you had your first deal at 13 units. To me, it's like, okay, I see how you can come up with $100K, figure out a way to do that joint venture. The thing I seem to see everybody get stuck on is, okay, I just spent all the money I had to get this first deal together. How the hell do I go to deal number 2? You know, like, and maybe you can kind of share what you did for yourself, and then maybe you can say what other options you might have seen out there.
So necessity is the mother of invention, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So I ran out of my money in the first couple deals. I'm like, I want to keep doing this, but I'm out of money. How do I do this? So we're still surfing around for deals, and I found one that was pretty good, and you know, I put together a joint venture in which I didn't put up any money, but I would manage the project. And, you know, because I assembled it, I got the deal under contract and put up the earnest money. You know, like I did a bunch of the stuff on the front end. I was able to command a pretty good split or, you know, stake within that partnership on the deal, even though I didn't put in any money.
Nice.
So that was pretty cool.
You're leveraging your experience and
Exactly.
and your just activity level, basically.
Yep.
You're kind of you were the hustle guy.
I was the hustle guy because, you know, there's different jobs you can have in this business, but the best job is the deal guy or gal because, you know, it's your deal and you can structure it however way you want. When it comes to senior debt, when it comes to equity, when it comes to partnerships, if you're the one with the contract, you call the shots. That can blow up on you if you're trying to be too greedy and you end up not performing on the deal because you couldn't, you know, get the equity required, couldn't get your partnership rounded out for all the roles that you needed. That could be, you know, a bad result. That's never happened to me, but it certainly could. And I've seen people, you know, insist on, you know, whatever their sticking point was, a certain percentage ownership or cash flow share or whatever. And yeah, it wasn't. They thought it was the best deal in the world. It wasn't because no one wanted to work with them. No one wanted to partner with them, and the deal died. So, like I said, that's never happened to me, but that's, you know, that's a risk. But my personality, I'd always rather be in control. So.
Okay. Nice. Sean, you got anything? I feel like I'm kind of.
Yeah, let's talk about some deal sourcing and the avenues that you're taking to get those deals. And then, of course, most sellers, I'm assuming in the residential space, you've been in there and you've seen that, but that's a far cry different from when you're talking $3 million versus $30,000 to purchase a house. So yeah. What's that sourcing look like and what's that paperwork look like to work with that seller and then say, okay, yeah, I'm willing to work with you?
You're not going to believe me, John. You're going to be so disappointed in me. You're going to want to hang up the call.
Okay.
Is there an exception here? No. Everything that I've purchased has been on the market.
Okay. So all on market as far as deal sourcing, and then how about making offers to sellers? What does that detail? What has to be done?
Got it. So if you're dealing with a residential agent, all bets are off, because no offense to my former brothers and sisters, but most residential agents do not know a thing about apartment buildings.
Right.
So that's the freaking wild, wild west. But when that happens, there's also an opportunity. So on the residential side, it's the wild, wild west, but opportunities do live there. I've crafted a couple fantastic deals off of the MLS. And then when you're dealing with commercial brokers, the way that this is, I'm using air quotes here, supposed to be done is, you submit what's called a non-binding letter of intent, or LOI. So, it depends on the broker, depends on the seller, whether they want people traipsing through their building or not. But they'll give you, 123 Main Street. They will give you, some kind of skeleton financials, like, hey, here's what the rents are per unit. Here's our historical expenses. Here's what we think it'll look like if you cast debt on it at this new price, blah, blah, blah. The broker will paint a really pretty picture. And you'll put together like a very simple 1, 2, 3 page LOI outlining the meat and potatoes as far as the terms of what your intent is to offer. And like I said, that can be before you have a physical tour. In some cases, if the seller doesn't want a whole bunch of people poking around and spooking the tenants, or sometimes they'll host tours and several groups will be on site, looking at some vacant units, walking the grounds, and then they'll do like a formal call for offers, and you'll put your best foot forward and see how it goes. If it's a competitive process, the seller will often interview the top few buyers just to figure out if they seem like they're legit or not, and they'll put you through a ringer in that buyer interview, and then they'll kind of coordinate with their broker, the seller and the broker, about who they think has the most attractive terms. So that's price, timeline, contingencies, all the normal stuff, financing, and then also who they believe is the most credible, the most likely to close, the least likely to cause them any trauma, heading towards the closing table, and they'll accept one of them, and then the buyer's attorney and seller's attorney will shoot what's called a purchase and sale agreement back and forth a few times. It'll be some red lines, some changes on verbiage and terminology, and once both sides are good with that, usually within the following week or so after the LOI has been accepted, they will ink the PSA. They'll conduct due diligence, which should involve walking of all the units, an environmental report, an appraisal, anything else the bank wants, a lease audit, going through all the leases and verifying that the people that are in there are the ones that are supposed to be, that they're paying the amount of rent they're supposed to, and so on and so forth. And with any luck, you get to closing a month or 45 days after that.
Okay. So what's back to the financial part of this? When you're saying you're going to get paperwork showing you what their financials are, like showing what the income is, what their costs are, how do you break that down? I remember a while ago, you and I were talking about some stuff, and you were showing me an Excel doc you use that gets pretty detailed, and it's pretty deep dive. But is there like a back of the napkin math you could use to say it's even worth looking at a deal that you
Sure.
be funded by your investors?
Everyone likes the back of the napkin stuff, right? So in single family, it's like the 1% rule, right, or the 2% rule. Like if you can buy a house for $100,000 and it rents for $1,500 a month, you got yourself a winner. It's a 1.5% deal. Everyone's tracking on that, right? Everyone knows that one. Cool. So the 50% rule is the multifamily world's kind of equivalent to that. So what you do is, let's just say that we've got a 20-unit apartment building that the market rents are $500 a month. So that's what, $10,000 a month in rent. You would, without having all the detailed financials, if you figured that, hey, this is an area in which people want to live, we think they shouldn't have any problems with big vacancies, blah, blah, blah. We should operate using 50%-ish of that total gross rent. So, if it made sense at half of the gross to pay your debt service, then you would figure that you'd have a deal. So that would involve hopping onto a mortgage calculator and seeing, okay, they're asking whatever they're asking for this thing, comes down to this much a month, monthly payments on just the mortgage side. If we're baking the taxes, insurance, property manager, utilities, grounds, repair reserve, all the rest of it, and that 50%, if, say our mortgage payment turned out to be $3,500, it would be $5,000 minus $3,500, $1,500 a month. Is that worth doing or not? That's, an individual decision. But a 50% rule without a full expense breakdown can get you a lot closer to that, a lot quicker.
So then a lot of people talk about the word cap rate, and I feel like it's used in a negligent way. But
okay. How so?
Because so many people could say different things about a cap rate and how you got to it, right? If the short and sweet was, I'm buying the building for X, I'm netting Y, then this is my cap. Is that about right?
Okay, so a cap rate, plain and simple, it's how we communicate. It's like our own little language. It's how we assess risk. So if something is in, let's say, Midtown Manhattan, and is an office building, and it's like the Empire State Building, right? If it was private, that would be at like a 2 cap if it were to sell somehow, because everyone knows that that's always going to be rented. So there's like no cash flow, probably negative cash flow, but they know that the value is going to keep ticking up on that thing every year. But if you're talking about a random apartment building in the middle of a field in Suffolk, that's a lot more risky, because we don't necessarily know if people want to live in a field in Suffolk. So that one, it might be trading at closer to a 10 cap would be closer to value. Where it's deceptive, like you're saying, I had one friend who he puts together presentations with like half a dozen different cap rates depending on who he's talking to. So are we talking to a buyer, a seller, a bank, an appraiser? Like who are we trying to kind of fix these numbers for? So it can be a little bit deceiving. But just for really quick math, if anyone out there is trying to figure out what something is worth on a cap rate basis, you can take the net operating income. So again, that's not the gross. So my little example there of the 20 unit, $10,000 a month would be 120 gross a year. But the using the 50% rule, we'd be down to 60,000 yearly NOI, net operating income. So if you thought that it was, a fairly high risk building that kicked off that income, maybe you want to call it a 9 cap. So you would take 60,000 divided by 0.09, which would give you a very ominous value of $666,666 is what you could pay for that building. But if you thought that, it wasn't that risky, maybe at a 6 cap, $60,000 divided by 0.06, you could pay $1 million for that building and feel good about it. I don't know if I helped it all there or made it worse, because a lot of this stuff, it's not complex, but you kind of need to see it written to understand it. So if you have the net operating income for a building that you're looking at, and you also have the purchase price that the folks are asking, you can figure out your cap rate. So like a $50,000 NOI into a $2 million building, so 50,000 divided by 2 million is a 2.5 cap, not good. So on your calculator, say 0.025. What would we need, the inverse of that, to get like a good conservative deal? So call it like a 9 cap. $2 million times 0.09 in the transaction the other way, we would want something with a net operating income of like 180,000 to feel good about that deal. So guys, this stuff's all over like Google and Bigger Pockets and whatever. So if you're like me and you need to see it written down, just do a quick search of that, and you'll see the correlation between NOI and purchase price or proposed purchase price and cap rate.
Hey Phil, one of the things I always run into is because you're trying to find your numbers, so you kind of want to see what the cap rate is in the area that you're looking at. How are you kind of finding those numbers? Are you just talking to other people that are heavy in that area, or?
Yeah, I mean, you can talk to brokers, but they have an agenda, right? They want you to buy at as low a cap rate as possible, because that means that every dollar that seller's pulling in for their NOI is working that much harder for them against you for the purchase price.
So you're looking at old comps, basically?
Yeah, but it's difficult. It's difficult to validate. Like CoStar is a data aggregator for commercial real estate, and the commercial brokers in the area will have access to that. So if you're really looking at something, and they're not, commercial brokers not engaged on the listing side, maybe reach out to one and see if you could pay them for a CoStar report about that specific building to see what's traded near it recently. And, CoStar, they always go back and try to figure out the cap rate and that it was traded at, again, for that market data to try to give you an idea, but it's not always accurate. It can be very deceiving. So the best defense to that is just really being granular and understanding your market and what's on what. You'll probably have better results that way. I mean, we did a recent appraisal for one building, and the data the appraiser pulled was the most ludicrous stuff you could imagine. It was not based in any kind of reality. We didn't need it to appraise the moon or anything, so we just kind of laughed it off and let it go. But yeah, I mean, I'd reach out to some commercial brokers with access to more data. I don't like cap rate as a metric. I don't. So,
what's your main metric you're looking for then? Just
a debt service coverage ratio and a cash on cash return. So
debt service ratio.
Yes, a debt service coverage ratio. So DSCR. Or did I invert that? Yeah, debt service coverage ratio. Anyway, what that means is if your debt payments for the year come out to $100,000 and your NOI is $125,000, then you have a 1.25 debt service coverage ratio, because 125 divided by 100 equals 1.25. That would make the bank feel like you have a safe property. There's a buffer in there that you could screw it up and still be able to pay them. So it's a fancy way of saying, can you pay your mortgage or not? And is that me or someone else? Okay, cool. It's a fancy way of saying, can you pay your mortgage? And it's quantified by that ratio. So a 1.25 is the minimum for a lot of banks, but to me, that's cutting it way, way, way too close. I like to be at a debt cover of like 1.6 or more, because that leaves me a lot of latitude for things to go a little weird, Corona or otherwise, and I'm still paying my mortgage. My residents are still making their deposits into my forced savings plan. That is the huge amortization that we get in commercial real estate. Slight tangent, but when I bought that first 13 unit, I figured it out. Like I looked 5 years ahead, and I said, look, if I just pay my mortgage, I make like an extra $20,000 a year in principal pay down. So that's the great thing about bigger deals is, that was like $1 million deal. So not even like huge for an extra $20,000 a year that I don't see in 2019 or 2020 or 2021. But fast forward it, if I refinance or exit that property, all of a sudden that money becomes mine, right? So the debt service coverage ratio, being respectful of that, make sure that your savings account, your piggy bank that your tenants are feeding into every month, remains safe. And I think that should be priority number one. That help at all, or just make it super confusing?
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's a metric I never heard of, so I like that.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's kind of how I think about it, which is always complicated when you're looking at multifamily deals. You have all these numbers that you're like, oh man, this is a good cap rate, or this is, I don't know. I'm always like, well, how much mortgage that I got to pay into and how much money I'm going to have at the end of the day? Because I like to be safe. So, I look at it the same way. Yeah. To make sure I got that cushion there. So that's really helpful.
So look at your cover, right? Your debt service coverage ratio, or cover, if you want to sound cool. And another one is your cash on cash return, because we're doing this to make money, right? So let's try to, I'm trying to conjure an example here sitting in the car. So let's use a $1 million building with a 30% down payment. So a $700,000 mortgage and a $300,000 down payment. So let's say that the free cash flow every year on that property is $30,000. So $30,000 a year divided by the $300,000 you invested would be what? A 10% cash on cash return. Tracking?
Yep.
Okay. Let's say we did the same $1 million building, but instead of a $300,000 down payment, we did a $100,000 down payment. So that's a lot more highly leveraged, as we say in the business. Instead of a 70% loan, we now have a 90% loan. Whether you can get that or not, let's not go there, because maybe it's a little outlandish, but we're just trying to illustrate a point here. So that one, let's say instead of $30,000 a year, you're only making $15,000 a year because of the increased debt service or mortgage, right? So we're making $15,000 a year when we invested $100, vice $30,000 a year when we invested $300. This illustrates what's called positive leverage. 15,000 into 100,000 is a 15% cash on cash return for the year, which is obviously a lot better than a 10, but it's not that simple, because again, you'll have to look at your debt service coverage ratio and some other metrics. But if you're over leveraged, it doesn't take too much to go wrong before you're in trouble and you're writing a check. So you have to be careful when you're chasing returns, looking at mega leverage, because leverage is synonymous with risk. Whether the residents pay or not, you still have to pay your mortgage, you still have to pay your taxes, so on and so forth. So there's different schools of thought about what the appropriate amount of leverage is. But if you're being respectful of your debt service coverage ratio and you're getting a cash on cash that works for you, if you're the only investor, for your partnership, if you've got some other joint venture partners, or for the syndication, if you've brought in truly passive investors, then hey, good to go, right?
Yeah.
How about deal flow? Do you have a KPI that you've come up with that says how many deals you have to make an offer on in order to figure out what it's going to take to get to a volume of deals?
No. No. And the thing is that there's really just not that many. There's not that many if you're being hyper local like Hampton Roads. I see everything. If I find out something has traded or sold that I didn't know about, I get really mad. Like really mad. Like, I have a good network from being a real estate agent and a flipper and just kind of being around, whatever. When people come across an apartment building, like they bring it to me because they know that I'll buy it. And, there's a chance that they can get a cut, like a fee on the front end, or maybe even, get involved in a partnership in some way. So it's pretty rare for something to trade around here that I didn't know about. So yeah, I wish I could answer that better as far as like how many I look at relative how many I buy. But I know specifically, around Ocean View and in Norfolk well enough that, you just give me an address and I'll just say like what is it? Like it's okay, it's 20 units, it's all one bedroom units are 500 square feet. It's in this neighborhood. I said, okay, I could do 1.1 for that or something like that. And either it'll work or it won't. Obviously I'll go ride by or dig further into it, but knowing your market, I can't overstress that enough. And like I said, Sean, I mean, everything I've bought has been on the market through brokers. So a lot of people are disparaging about doing it that way. But seems like all my deals are doing okay. So, I would love to work with you or anyone else that's going direct to sellers and getting legitimate leads. It's just, it doesn't happen very often. A wholesaler brought me one yesterday. They're like, oh, we got this 15 unit, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, can you send me the details? And I was like, yeah. The problem with that one is XYZ, ABC. They're like, whoa, we didn't know that. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I've known about that one for 2 years.
Right. So the metric that you use would be just your network. So you're not measuring anything because you're not marketing to anything, correct?
Correct. I mean, it's not like single family, like where you're going and you're hitting lists of thousands. The stuff that I would buy in Hampton Roads is fewer than 500. Like there's fewer than 500 possibilities for me to buy that meet my criteria.
That's not active. That's unactive, right?
I understand. Yeah, exactly.
No, but okay, you're not talking about active. I mean, you're saying
I'm talking
in general.
Yeah, I mean, they're very few. They're very few. So when something does come along, it gets a lot of my attention because it deserves it, because I don't know when I'm going to see another one.
Gotcha. What is your geographic area you're looking at, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, I mean, I like the South Side. I'm doing a little bit of work up on the peninsula now, just because I think I've got a decent handle on what's on the South Side, and it's close enough. We do have one project in Richmond, that is taking up an inordinate amount of my time relative to what it is. My friend Andrew Cushman, who, if you're on Bigger Pockets, you might have seen him around. He has an old saying that oh jeez, I'm gonna butcher it now.
Go ahead, kill it, man.
Yeah, I know. That when it comes to like lower class properties, like C minus D class properties, that the grass is always greener over the septic tank. So like they'll look good, they'll pass your 50% rule. Like you'll be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna raise the rents to this. It's gonna be rad. It's gonna be easy. But when you're dealing with, you know, kind of a lower class clientele, it can really wear on you. And in the age of COVID, you know, this one project in Richmond, we have 40% of the people who are what's called strategically defaulting, AKA like there's, you know, lawyers going through these, you know, kind of lower income neighborhoods and passing out flyers. Like, you don't have to pay your rent. The governor said you didn't have to. And they are taking full advantage. So with 40% of the people living there for free, we are breaking even, but not doing anything more than that. And it's just, it's miserable. So, you know, I don't think that's gonna prohibit me from going to Richmond in the future. I'm actually going to look at like a 200 unit there next week. But you know, if you're doing stuff that's a little uglier, I would encourage you, especially if it's an early deal in your career, to have it very close so that you can lay eyes on it often without being too much of a pain for you.
I think that's the same with single family, man.
Correct.
You know, just if you're buying in a gang zone, you're gonna, you know, your numbers might look really good, but
right.
You know, how much is that going to cost you?
So Phil, can you talk about your structure? So let's say you've got a lot of ears and eyes in the market. They bring you a deal, and now you structure the joint venture or the seller finance, because that seems to be the one that allows you to get past all the 506B and 506C. What does that look like? Or is it a percentage? Do you, because you're managing it, like these 400 doors that you own or whatever the number is today, what percentage of ownership do you hold in those doors?
I can lay it out like pretty precisely for you. So the first 13 I picked up, those are all mine. I bought my partner out, so those are mine. Hey, if anyone's looking for a deal, I'm actually selling those now.
All that.
Yeah, it's just the issue with them. It's a great little project. The issue with them is it requires hands-on management, and I'm just not willing to do that right now. I started off wanting to pick up all the checks and money orders and having a great time. Like, yes, this is mine. And I've just gotten to the point with other projects that I don't want to do that type of work anymore. So anyway, the market's insane. If someone wants to pay me what I'm asking, I'm out of there. That's cool. So it'll be 13 less. Let's see here. I did a couple of 20 plexes where I was 20 or 25% owner with none of my money. And one of my partners actually bought me out of those, and it was a very good payday for me. So that was cool for 2020, which has been crazy. We own a portfolio of 108 units. 25% of those are mine. So that's, you know, the lion's share of my holdings at this point. Then we've got 82 in Richmond, 16% are mine. What am I forgetting about? And then we have a building in Chesapeake that 9% of it's mine. So I don't think I forgot about anything. So it's kind of it varies. Let's see. Let me try to do math on a call is hard. It's like 50-ish, I guess, are mine.
50%.
No, 50 doors of the 309 are mine. So whatever percentage that is.
Got it. Awesome.
Well, that's awesome, man. That's I think you've got a really unique perspective because, one, I think just having seen you kind of, I remember when you were buying those first 13 properties, I actually looked at them too with a client and was looking at them.
Yeah.
And then I talked to you and like, yeah, man, I'm buying these things. And then really you kind of just kept going. I was like, oh,
That's
damn.
right.
It was like a year later or 2 years later. I'm like, what happened to Phil? And then all of a sudden you're like doing all this stuff, talking at all these places. And I'm like, oh shit. Oh, dang. Phil, man, he's doing some stuff, moving, shaking. But I think it shows that it's doable though. I mean, you didn't start from just like, you know, I think that's one of the big things we try to do on this program is to, you know, show people that have kind of done it from their bootstraps, you know, pulling up their own bootstraps and just making it happen. And I think you've done that. So we appreciate you sharing what you've done. I think it's a great model for what, you know, other people can do. But yeah, man, thanks for sharing all that.
Thanks, brother. That's a really high compliment. I actually remember those conversations. And aren't you are you upset that you didn't buy it at 900 a few years ago? And now you can buy it at 1.1 million today?
Hey, man, you never know. You never know.
Yeah. But like, not to get too like woo woo on you guys or whatever, because you know I know this is like a real estate show and not like a woo woo one. But when you realize that like nobody in the world, especially with everything that's going on in the world right now, like I don't care who you are, no one in the world is like better than you. You know, I wrote a book last year, and in it, like the first few chapters are extremely humbling for me. Talking about my military journey and, you know, how, you know, it was pretty great for a while and then it really wasn't. And it was like the worst time in my life. You know, like rebounding from that, it was tough because I didn't, you know, like who am I to do X, Y, and Z, to freaking sell a house, to flip a house, to buy a house, to buy a building, to buy a bunch of buildings. Like who am I, right? But it's like a cultural thing that we have to fight against where there's so many forces that are telling you that you're not enough, that you can't do it, that, you know, whatever your dream is or the path that you want to go, that's for someone else. You didn't earn it. You had to do this prerequisite. And it's all crap. Like if you decide that you want to do this, just go do it. There's going to be one step that's the next logical step. Take that one. And the next one will sort of avail itself. You know, each deal that I've done, I mean, I could write books on the complex, crazy crap that happens when you're trying to get a deal of this size to the finish line. Like, it's always something. Always. Like, if you think, like, no residential escrow ever closes on time. Like, you guys knew that. There's always something. Multiply the numbers by hundreds or thousands, or, you know, like tens or dozens or hundreds, and even more wild stuff comes up that you could have never prepared for and never dreamed of. So, you know, the key is just deciding that you're gonna do it, and also being, you know, accepting of yourself for where you are, and, you know, saying to whoever in your life or influencers or whatever, like there's nothing that's precluding you from doing anything like this. And, you know, this isn't going to be right for the vast majority of people that listen to this. But there's going to be maybe one person that listens to this, and in 2 years, you know, you're going to have them on and you'll be like, yeah, like, okay, you're like this apartment guy now, or this single, this self-storage gal, or, you know, mobile home dude. Like, you know, figure out what lights you up and just freaking go do it. You know, because there's frankly just not too much of a reason not to. And I've never once been criticized by anyone who's doing more in the business than me, only by people who aren't. And frankly, they don't really mean much to me at this point.
What's the name of the book you wrote, Phil?
It's called Your VA Loan, so like the Veterans Administration, and How It Can Make You a Millionaire.
Okay.
So if you are military present or past, or know somebody, would love it if you'd pick that up from Amazon or for free on Kindle, and leave me a review if you get anything out of it. That would be awesome.
We'll put a link on there on our
cool.
Facebook page. And I need to pick it up and read it. So I can't say I have yet. Gonna do that. As you know, I work with a lot of VA.
Yes, you do.
A lot of military and do that route. So I'm excited. I didn't until you had posted that you wrote that book. I was like, I had no idea you even. I didn't even know you were military. So you know, it's pretty cool, man. But I do know that, you know, we've been on here a little bit. I want to let you kind of keep on your route.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm on this crazy road trip today, but yeah, it was great visiting with you guys. I do appreciate the opportunity, and you know, you guys are a bunch of badasses, so I'm always happy to hop on and chat with you guys.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for spending the time with us, and hopefully you enjoy that trip. And obviously we'll be talking to you soon and see what kind of deals we can work on with you.
Yes, sir. Oh man, Sean, I know you're a tough negotiator, so you bring me something, I'll know it instantly I'm going to be in trouble. But, yeah, man, let's do some deals. They're fun.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again. Guys. Anybody else have anything else? Good to go. Awesome. All right, Phil, thanks a lot for being on here, man. Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. See you guys. Bye.
Bye. All right. So we'll try to get back into this, guys, and take some questions. And we have about 19 minutes left of that interview with Phil. But what we're going to do is post that on the live feed for later so that you guys can see that. And what we're going to do now is just kind of go over some of the questions that came up earlier. And if you guys have questions while you're here now, feel free to write them over in the chat, and we'll try to get to them. So the first one we had up was multifamilies seem to be hard to find. What shopping method did Phil use to find these units? His answer in that was that he actually found them on market. So there wasn't anything specifically for Phil that he was talking about off-market marketing, trying to find himself or anything specific. That was Phil's way of doing it. So hopefully that answers that one. Is there a metric that Phil says the most attention or pays the most attention to when considering new multifamily deals? It looked kind of what he hit on was cash on cash return. And then he talked about a little bit of a cap rate. He really was focusing more on a cash on cash return. That seemed to be what his main focus was in this conversation, and what he figures is structuring deals. What's the best return he can get for the amount of money he's putting down? And that's probably for all parties involved. Let's see. We'll move down here. What advice do you have for those of us that are interested, but are somewhat risk adverse? Just want to know how to pull the trigger on a deal, finding a deal, etc. So that was Lawrence. Lawrence, what I'm going to say is this is where shadowing people and trying to work with as many people as you can for an exchange of lifetime information or money, right? If you don't have a lot of money and you have the time, this is where you want to provide value by figuring out what that person needs you to go bring them and bring that back to them, right? In exchange for the value of that person's, what their knowledge is, right? Or you're just flat out paying them for it. So this is where I feel like a lot of people say, and I think you said it here, you're somewhat risk adverse. So then get with Phil, reach out to him, and we'll have his information here later and here, so that you guys can reach out to Phil and ask him these questions directly. But I will always say in any industry, especially in real estate, if you don't have the money, what you do have is the time. And then that time needs to be an exchange of value, right? So make sure you're taking the time to ask these people what you can do to help them in order to exchange the value, right? Which is learning from them what they already know to curve your risk, which is what you're talking about with your risk averseness. And then Lawrence asked another one was, how can people that want to shadow someone add some value with little zero experience in investing in real estate? And that was it. That was the answer. Lawrence, I don't know if you're still here. I know that was probably about 30 minutes ago you wrote that, and during the video that was going up. But were there any other questions that you guys have over there in the chats hanging out? Please leave us some comments and let us know. think we got through all of them. There was Happy Sweets, Lawrence Robertson. Let's see. Chris Babbitt was here. Let's see who else we have. Healthcare investors. So hopefully you guys were able to watch the video and get some information from this, guys. Hopefully this stuff is valuable and helping you guys that are interested in this multifamily space. It's a completely different game, right? So when you talk about the residential world versus the multifamily world, it's a completely different space. Different terms, different knowledge, different experience. Like there's a lot of things that are moving over there that you have got to take the time to, hip up next to somebody and ask the questions, right? But be the person that brings value and really take the time to help that person that's bringing their knowledge to what you're looking for is experience, right? Healthcare as an investor says it was a great presentation. Hope all is doing well and appreciate the video tonight from Chris Babbitt. Thank you. Really appreciate it, guys. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us this evening. And hopefully this stuff was interesting. All right. This is what Hopportunity is all about. We're looking forward to getting these back in public again and doing them at the breweries. Because, man, I miss, just going to those breweries, meeting people, and having fun. So are you guys still doing property walkthroughs during COVID? Yes. Yes, we're still doing. We actually just started back up. Like a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. We're still doing the property walkthroughs. So yeah, definitely check us out there. We're at wholesalingoutofthebox.com. Go to the events page and check that out. We'll definitely be able to help you over there for sure. So thank you, Lawrence, for asking about that. Let's see. Anybody else have any questions, or Alex or Cam wanted to give some feedback and follow up on anything that came out of that video from today's earlier recording? And you guys are on mute, by the way.
Yeah, so lots of good information from Phil about the multifamily space, and how Sean said it definitely different. It's a different speak. Definitely something to look into. But also to answer that property walkthrough question, yeah, we were out there 2 weeks ago, and we'll be out there in September. So look forward to seeing you. That's all I got.
Yeah, guys. Phil, always great to chat with you. I think the great thing about having Phil on here is, he's out there doing it. He's hustling. He came kind of from, the same beginnings as most of us. So it's not like he got some huge chunk of cash and went out and did something extravagant. He kind of built his model up as he went, and he kind of did it with what made him with what kind of worked for him, I guess is the best way to put it. He found something that worked, and then he kind of just kept working it. And I think everyone's always trying to talk about how do you get in there, how do you keep it going, and I think he's just a great example for that. That's why we wanted him on here. Is how did you get to 300 plus properties? That's going to soon be 400. I don't know. So that's why we have guys like Phil's come on, and I think, we need to take note of the stuff he's talking about. He's saying, he did have a background in real estate, right? So he was doing sales, he was doing flipping, he was doing these things. So he went out there and understood the business. And I think everybody that's talking about, well, how do I get into this? How do I, become successful in this? You gotta go out and hustle and learn and do the work, man. Phil was the hustle guy for a while. Now he's probably changing that over. Eventually he's going to become the money guy. It's you want to convert to be as active and then as passive, and everyone's talking about doing joint ventures. Well, you know what? Everyone here on this panel would probably say is, I'm always looking for people that are going to go out there and just hustle and do the stuff that I don't have time to do anymore. So if you go out there and
there
you do
is
that,
no push button system there. You can have all the CRMs in the world, and you can have all these little things, but it doesn't matter if you don't do the work or know what you're doing to hire the right people to do the work, right? And this doesn't happen overnight, You know, you've got to take the time to build this and put the time in. And one thing that a lot of guys I don't hear a lot of guys saying, but like, you have to enjoy the process. This isn't an overnight thing, right? Like, everybody's got to pay their dues, where they've got to come in, do the shit work and the grunt work. You know, like, you got to get through it. It's part of it, right? And it truly is. And I don't think until you're in this industry for a little bit of time, and I mean a little bit of time by like year 2, 3, that's where you've put the time in. If you've actually done the work and you've gone out and done the appointments and talked to people and stuff's gone bad and stuff's gone good, you know, like, all of this is to the process. This is to the doing the work statement that everybody talks about that's been through it, right? Everybody that's ever successful, I don't care even if you had money handed to you. You either lost it or you kept it, right? Because you did the work and understand what you were doing. So, yeah, really good talk. Really good conversation with Phil. So let's finish this up, guys. One thing we always talk about here, because we're at Hopportunity, is what was everybody drinking tonight for the event? Like, where were you hanging out, drinking, watching the show? What were you guys drinking tonight? We'll go around on the panel here, and we'll bring the ladies back on and see what they were drinking. But let's start with Cam. What'd you have?
Free verse.
Free verse. Nice. All right.
It's my go-to.
Free bird.
Free bird.
Alex, what'd you have?
Free bird. Orange Crush Back Bay IPA. So that's kind of like a local on top of a local. Orange Crushers is kind of a local drink. Back Bay is local brewery.
Nice. Ashley, what'd you pull out of your fridge?
I had Devil's Background Hibiscus Hard Lemonade.
Ooh.
So, yeah, that one's been sitting in there for a couple of months, and I figured I might as well finish it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Devil's Background is a hard lemonade?
Nice. All right, Vanessa, what you got?
Wicked Juicy IPA.
Wicked, man. Wicked. All right. So I had
What do you have?
What, Shiner?
Oh yeah, she was doing the Shiner Bach. So I was not doing beer tonight. I actually had whiskey, and I had the Nika Coffee Green Japanese whiskey. That's really good for those that are whiskey drinkers. It was really good.
Is that
yes, it is coffee? Not coffee. It's the COFFEY, not like the coffee drink. So let's see some guys online. We had Lawrence. He was drinking Jameson. Chris Babbitt was Kova Brewing. He said he just opened up near East Beach. That's cool. I have to check that.
Are you back, Chris?
I don't know. Chris is still here. Give us a ride over there and see what's up. Lawrence said his wife was drinking Voodoo Ranger IPA. Yeah, those are good. That's a good one. Roy, he had Lavagulin. Yeah, that's a good one. That's actually a Scottish whiskey. That's like a blend. So I actually found that when I was in England. I was like, damn, this stuff is good. Then I got back home and I was like, man, it's not that fancy. It's here in the States. It's really good, though. Very smoky taste to it. Well, guys, thank you so much for everybody hanging out with us. Really appreciate it. Hope this was enjoyable. You got some really good information. And as usual, always having fun over here, man. And I want to thank everybody on the panel tonight that's always here and putting in the time and the work. Again, thank you, ladies, for Ashley and Vanessa, always helping us and, making us look like we know what we're doing and keeping everything all nice and fancy. So, did anybody else have anything else? Cameron, Alex, Ashley, Vanessa, anything specific? Any closing remarks from anybody?
Guys, if you got any more questions, throw them out there, and we'll get Phil to jump on tomorrow.
Awesome. Daniel said, thanks. It's great. And real estate and drinks. Yeah, man, that's what we're all about. It all started from a brewery where Alex and I started talking shop. Next thing you know, we're 3 years in, and how many kids do y'all know?
4 kids.
Right? So it's grown, it's gotten bigger, and we're looking forward to keeping it going, guys. If anything, one thing I always talk about is you're either consistent or non-existent. And we, as this Hopportunity, have done that for you guys and for us. We have pivoted in this virtual world, making it happen. That's right. Look, that's the banner.
Man, we're trying.
All right. Well, thanks again. Appreciate everybody being here. Anybody watching the replay, please leave some comments and always let us know if there's anything that you want that you want to hear or you'd like to see somebody we can bring in. One thing we're big at is making sure that people we bring in are actually doing the business and not talking about it only. Right? That's a big part of this opportunity group.
Guys, I don't know what our next month is, so that is a legit thing. If people want to hear about something, please tell us. We've been so busy. We've all been hustling like crazy in our own businesses.
That's right.
Man, we got to figure out what we're doing next month.
That's right. We'll put something together for you guys. We'll make it happen.
So please tell us. Give us some feedback. Let us know what you want to hear about.
Thanks again, guys. We'll talk to you next time. You guys have a good night. Later.
Peace.